Yo, what is up YouTube? It is your boy Bobby D back again with another hot and juicy video. And guys, I'm back at Mcgrath Medical with the fan favorite of the channel, the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Cook, as always.
Oh, my man, Bobby, great to be back.
Yes, sir. And everyone, you see my previous video, this is my 8th month progress from my second hair transplant, and it went very well. And most of the questions I get, Steve, with my hair transplants, even my first one to now, how much do they cost? And I know it varies, so I'm gonna ask the expert, the GOAT himself, to help everybody out. So
that's a great question, Bobby. And it's a tough way to answer that, or at least it's hard to answer that specifically because we have many different types of business models out there. So let me try to be quick because I know our video's got to be a little short. Let's start off with the board certified doctors, doctors that do this as a specialty. This is the way they make their living and they do nothing else. So that's Dr. Mcgrath, who you had. Dr. Mcgrath charges $6 a graft for FUE. He charges $5 a graft for FUT. And the average case, I would say, is somewhere in the area of 2,300 grafts per case. It's rare that we'll do here in Austin less than 1,500 because those kind of cases will try to talk patients out of doing surgery, like I try to talk you out of doing surgery. And it is rare that he will do very large cases because what Dr. Mcgrath's goal has been, and you are a perfect example of this, is to take things very slowly, get all patients on some sort of preventative treatment that they can tolerate, and then do surgery in just the hairline, which is, you're a great example of that. So young patient, good health, good shape. Do you need a hair transplant or not? I mean, yeah, you had a little bit of hair loss and a little bit of recession, and now that we've knocked that out. So the price of your procedure, if you're looking at FUT, which is what we talked about and you elected for, is in the areas of $8,000, $9,000. The FUEs would be, $1 per graft. So that's up to $10,000, $11,000. And that's with these doctors that are board certified. That's a fair price. You'll find doctors that are board certified, that are awesome doctors, that do both procedures that'll charge a lot more than that in LA, in Chicago, in Miami. They're friends of mine. I send patients to them and they do great work. You'll find doctors that are not board certified and that are not specialists, that bought a machine. They don't do a FUT procedure because they've never been trained on how to do it. And they do FUE. I'm not saying that they are not good at it, possibly can be, but if you're not doing this every day, and if you haven't really had a lot of experience with the artistry of hair restoration, then you most likely are going to turn that over to some sort of staff member or whatnot, and they are out of the room, or they're just not the artist. They're going to charge less from a competitive standpoint. So that same 2,000 grafts at $5 a graft for FUE is $10,000. Then there's also, I guess I'm answering your question pretty elaborately, flying to other countries where you're getting large volume of grafts, which I think we'll talk about in one of your videos later, and you're paying very little price. So I'm extremely cautious of those models, and I honestly do not know anything about them. Obviously, I'm gonna be a little skeptical because I need to know where my doctor, trained and how long he's been doing it, and I wanna see a bunch of examples of his work. And I also wanna make sure that on that day of my surgery, I'm getting all the attention from not just the doctor, but from the staff, from any extractor. And I wanna make sure that everything, all the grafts are coming out, that everything is perfect. So there's a vast array of different costs for hair transplants. I would say that now that YouTube and social media has kind of put out there some of the work, that the potential patients are getting really smart and they're understanding the differences between those specialists and those boutique doctors that, quite frankly, turn away about 80 to 85% of their patients. So you're gonna pay a fair price. These things are not cheap. And I'm a pretty frugal guy, and I'm like, whew.
Me too.
So, but I think that we can both agree, based on my experience in all these years, and I didn't want to talk about how much money I put into this, including my hair additions and wigs and whatnot when I was in my 20s, and the maintenance for those things is insane. But the money that I spent and the lessons that I learned is well worth it, and I'm really happy. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe you want to tell
everybody
about what your investment has turned into for you.
It's been a great experience. It's one of the best decisions I've made for sure. Getting it worth all the money. So
yeah. I mean, I think that the last thing I'll say is that years and years ago, I dabbled around on the internet like everybody, and I wrote an article out there, and it was the title of my article, which was published, and I didn't really even know that you could have an article published on the internet, but you can. And it was called "You Cannot Afford a Cheap Hair Transplant."
True that.
So to destroy that donor, not to say that's going to happen every time if you get a good price, but you got to be very careful.
For sure. That's what I feel like too, is just you need to make sure to do your research and find the best doctor, one of the best ones you can get. It might cost you more money, but you don't want a bad job.
I think that you're right. I think that if you start, I mean, everybody has a budget. And for a lot of us, this might not be something we can afford right now. Life has its ups and downs. But I think when it comes down to it, when you really take a look at what's available out there in regards to, videos, before and after photos. I mean, I'm a big fan. I think on you, Bobby, we did a bunch of comb throughs. And I use you as a great example because that's a 3-dimensional video that you can literally sit and stop and punch and say, look, that's where how the grafts are placed next to each other. So you can see the spacing, okay? That's really important for a patient to see, and in one procedure, now you've done 2, so it'll be a little different, but you can see and say, hey, you know what? That placement, that works for me. Or you be able to say that placement really doesn't work for me because I have really dark hair on really light skin. And that's going to kind of jump out. I'm going to definitely need 2 procedures, and that's going to be double the money. These are all the things that a lot of these videos tell you and teach you that you need to know going into it. You want to be very careful for a very low ball, low price surgery where you're sharing that same day with 4 other patients and the doctor really doesn't have much experience. That's probably not worth that lower cost.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks again, Steve, for helping me answer those questions about the price and everything. And I hope y'all, the viewers, get a lot out of this as well. And as always, make the best decision for you. Do your research, find the correct doctor, talk to a consultant like Steve. Always there to help people. He does great work and do his best for you. And as always, guys, if you like my channel, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.